Aloha and welcome to Thumbing Through Yesterday, the podcast where we take our favorite books down from the shelf, dust them off, and remind ourselves why it is we love them so. My name's Tom Galley, and joining me today we've got Tony Pasculi.
Happy to be here as always.
And this time around we're going back to one of my favorites from way back when, Robert Forward's Dragon's Egg.
What a book. Okay, but why did you pick this book?
You know, it had been a long time. This is one of those books that I haven't touched in, I don't know, maybe 20 years, maybe longer.
Wow.
And I just have fond memories of it. So when I was coming up with lists of books to put, for the podcast, it made it on the list. And I was scanning through the list and thought, that sounds like fun. I haven't read about the Chila in a long time. Let's go back to that.
And did it live up to your memories?
Yes and no.
Let's start with yes.
You know what? It took me a while to put this together. And actually, after I read it, I did read the sequel, Starquake.
Ooh, good for you.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being anywhere near as good.
It was nowhere near as good. Yeah. And what I came to realize is that Robert Forward is really good on the tiny scale, right? So with the Chila, we have these creatures whose lifespan is about 15 minutes, right? Yeah. So, I mean, the book is almost just a series of short stories. This Chila does this Chila does this, these Chila do this, and it's there's not a lot of diving into anything. Every Chila is born, it develops, we get an insight into what its accomplishments are, it dies, the next thing happens. And it's fascinating and it's fun to watch that evolution.
Yeah.
The humans, who we get considerably more time with throughout the book, are they're poorly developed. They're not really believable.
They are cardboard cutouts.
Yeah.
They are sexist cardboard cutouts.
They exist only so that there can be an observer platform for the Chila. Yeah. Right.
I got to say, even the characterization of the Chila isn't that strong. It's just that because they're so alien and the world building is so good that I think, well, at least I tend to give him a lot of credit and go, yeah, okay, sure. But when you look at what he has them do, it's pretty basic stuff. It's like, they start off as sort of clan of the cave bear, and then they sort of morph into a more warrior-based society where they're, the one way they're different from the Spartans is that the men have sex with women, and women are sometimes in charge. They go into a sort of a cult religious phase. Mm-hmm. There's nothing really deep or insightful or interesting about Chila society.
I think it's fun just because it's such a fast-forwarded version of our own societal evolution.
Yeah. I think it's fun. I think what Forward does an amazing job on is really sticking to the world building and how incredible is like the clan that the humans encounter is sort of the strongest one on the planet because their leaders made the very difficult decision to escape this volcano by going in the quote hard direction.
Right.
The magnetic. So these are animals that live on the surface of a neutron star. And the magnetic field is so strong that it literally distorts their bodies. And they can move very easily east to west along the magnetic poles and very, very hard to move in the other direction.
Yeah, so they make the choice to move south or north, I forget which, away from the volcano.
Yeah.
Right? And that ends up being everything.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
It takes them to unexplored fields. It gets them away from the competition of other clans. And
yes.
It happens at the same time that the humans are mapping the star, which leads to all sorts of fun hijinks.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So then we covered your yes and your no there. Fun Chila stories, disappointing human characters. Anything else on the yes side?
Well, this is neither yes nor no. But one of the fun things it is to look at what the state of the technology was when this was written,
that is hilarious.
how he predicts things are going to evolve. And one of the things I just found annoying, and it's such a little thing, but it always is, they have computers that they can address verbally, as long as they shout at them. Every direction given to the computer ends with an exclamation point.
Yeah.
Every single one. The computer is hard of hearing.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, he completely as many sci-fi writers of the time did, they completely failed to understand what a computer was capable of. As we probably are still failing to understand that. But some of the other things that he came up with were they seem like they hold water.
Yeah. So this book is written in 1980, and then it takes place initially in 2020 and then in 2050, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I think the extrapolation in terms of space flight is pretty good. They're exploring a neutron star, which is sort of gone rogue and is sort of hurtling near our solar system. And they plan very far in advance to send something out to meet it for a few days before it disappears.
Yeah, but they've got, even 2020, they were experimenting with fusion drives, right? So in his book, they're a little bit ahead of what we've actually managed to do.
Yeah.
I thought he did a fantastic job because the book actually starts 500,000 years ago.
True, yes.
I thought he did just a fantastic job of setting this up in such a way that it's believable that the dragon's egg is not discovered until it's so close to Earth. But it also ends up being the cause, probably one of the primary causes of the evolution of intelligent life on Earth.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and then we repay the favor by accelerating their evolution when we go to visit by beaming down the entire encyclopedia to them. That was another one of the things that they were talking about. The Cheeler sending them data, and they're filling up their data carts when they reach like a terabyte of information or something like that. It's like, come on, I've got.
They give us a number that is by modern standards quite small.
Yes.
But my 1980 standards would have been inconceivable.
Yeah, true. I was a programmer in 1980, and
could you conceive of a terabyte of data?
No, I worked on an IBM PC, my first professional programming job, and it was it had an outboard hard drive because the IBM PC did not come with a hard drive. That was the XT. Mm-hmm. Had an outboard hard drive the size of a toaster that stored 5 megabytes. Yeah.
Yep. Back in the day.
Back in the day. Yeah.
So he was very flippant with so many things that, no, I'm not a physicist. I'm the son of a physicist, but I'm not a physicist. I don't know that you could take.
That's awesome.
I don't know that you could automate a monopole factory and have it transform rogue asteroids into, high density degenerate matter balls.
As far as we know, monopoles are not a thing that exists, but they were still speculative back in the 80s through the late 90s, I would say.
And, I don't know how much of the science fiction part of what he wrote in terms of spaceships and gravity masses and inertia and all that would actually hold water, and how much of it is just, it sounds cool, Star Trek science fiction.
Well, I'm going to point out that he does include a technical appendix, and that's one of those things
he does. It's a little bit laughable.
Is it?
Yeah.
I just love a good science fiction book that has a technical appendix because I get off on the science. I love it. I love the science in this book, and he is a physicist, so I give him a lot of credit. But I didn't go and backstop it with any research or anything like that independently. So,
but yeah, this was. I don't know. I just enjoyed a lot of things about it, and I enjoy how there's a cyclic relationship, how humanity discovers the Chila, and because of humanity, the Chila begin their technological advancement, and an hour later or the next morning, the Chila have surpassed humanity.
Yes.
And then if you were to read the sequel 15 minutes later, humanity ends up saving the Chila again because there is a starquake, and the vast majority of the Chila civilization is demolished.
That's interesting. I would assume that they would have been multiplanetary by then.
The main reason that they survive is the fact that there were a fairly decent number of Chila off planet.
Gotcha.
There were maybe a half dozen on the planet that survived because they were in unique locations. And everything that is charming about the first book is lacking in the second book.
Oh, that's a shame.
The second book only spans a few generations, and the Chila have discovered regeneration, so we have the same characters stretched throughout the book, and Forward's lack of ability to actually develop a full-bodied character shows through again.
Yeah, I guess if you're just like dealing with them for a chapter or two at a time, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But when you gotta,
And there's so much technobabble in the second one, like a third of the book. I'm going to ask you about that because you generally enjoy in hard sci-fi when they throw technical details at us.
I love it. Like my favorite parts of a Heinlein novel is when he busts out a slide rule and starts calculating the distance between planets. Yeah.
So how did you feel about the techno in this?
I love it. This is among my all-time favorite books for that. In fact, when I talk about hard science fiction, this is the book that's in my mind as the exemplar of hard sci. What I want is very grounded in what we know, but speculative science. I'm not a fan of hard science fiction that's like, yeah, everything that happens in this book is something that could actually happen and we know it today, because it's boring. I mean, Tom Clancy's hard science fiction by that metric. So yeah, I love it. I love the fact that he's got this technical appendix for us. I love the fact that there's reference materials. He actually cites some papers that he wrote, and then some stuff he wrote for Analog, a pop sci thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. And back in the day, back before science fiction was on television, aside from like Star Trek, which was pretty soft sci-fi, I loved reading pop science about neutron stars and black holes, and I was like the only one in my high school that cared about that stuff. So to come across a book like this was amazing to me.
Again, I had issues not knowing enough about whether I could believe this or not, right? I don't know enough about the field, but he definitely put in a lot of energy and effort into crafting this, coming up with at least a plausible scenario, where they engineer these masses, these degenerate matter masses, to be a gravitational offset, right? So they can get humans close enough to the egg without them being, killed.
That seemed less plausible to me, just because he even talks about how strong the tidal forces are, and like if you held your hand out, you could feel the difference. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, you've only got 6 compensator masses. How you're not going to have perfect overlap? I feel like there are going to be places on the ship where if you're not careful, you would get squished. Yeah. But for the sake of the story, spacious, I'll let it go. Yes.
Because they got people kicking around in different rooms and everybody's gathered in the same room.
If you can feel the tidal forces by reaching out your hand, what are you going to feel when you change decks?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I decided to let that go for the sake of all the other fun science. Yeah.
Well, could we have written this book without the humans, right? Just the Chila?
I don't think it's as fun. Because one of the fun things for me, you ever read a story called Microcosmic God by Ted Sturgeon?
I don't know. Definitely have read a bunch of Ted Sturgeon.
Okay. Very, very short story about a guy who creates life he's creating a terrarium in a gallon jug of wine. And he decides to create life, and he creates these little humans. And because they're so small, they evolve really fast. And he is their god, but eventually they surpass him in ability because they're evolving so fast.
Does this end up with him inside of a super reflective dome in the middle of the ocean? He's just disappeared and isolated himself from humanity along with his
I don't remember how. I haven't read it. I meant to read it again before this, and I did not. I think it ends badly for him, though. I think they decide they don't want a god and don't need one.
That's not the one I'm thinking of then.
But part of the fun for me of this book is how fast the Chila life cycle is relative to the humans. And the fact that their physics surpasses human technology so quickly. And that's where you get into the fun speculative stuff. Mm-hmm. And without the humans as a reference point, it's less interesting. But I thought we could have done with a lot less of the humans.
The human, yeah. I mean, you needed, I guess, the humans, because you need the humans to jumpstart the Chila civilization.
Yep.
Right. We've got to have the laser mapping incident to get the religion off the ground, and then we have to have the exchange of information to get the initial technology jumpstart going.
Yeah.
But then one of the things that I think is fantastic, is after humanity has dumped their entire encyclopedia of knowledge, right, the Chila start responding and sending them back stuff. But they send it back in code, and it's like, the key to this code is on the 3rd moon of the 2nd planet of Alpha Centauri.
Yes.
Good luck.
Well, because, and that's very deliberate choice, they don't want, it's the later version of the prime directive.
Right.
We don't want to compromise your evolution, even though you compromised ours to our benefit. Yeah, we don't want to compromise your evolution. So we will give you the answer once you've
already figured out the answer.
Yes.
Yep.
There's a great note here, which is just so telling of how much Robert Forward doesn't understand actual human beings. There was a bit, he flipped to the section on neutron star interiors. He mused that a cryptogram with only 16 5-digit numbers could probably be broken by a large computer and exhaustive search. I think we can do that today. But he figured that the human race would be too proud to peak. It's like, what? What human race are you talking about? because I don't recognize it. Too proud to peak? Oh no. We've got the answer to a fundamental physics problem there, and it's hidden behind a cipher that we can crack tomorrow. But let's be good fellas about this and not cheat.
Absolutely. Let's earn the knowledge responsibly. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Now the Chila really do become a force to be reckoned with. We don't actually see as much of that as I would like to. But one of the things, towards the end of the book, one of the things, the giveaways, we know that they've become an interstellar civilization, right? Because they're hiding crypto keys for us on alien worlds.
Yeah.
But they're like, they like humans. They think humans ought to have a chance, even though we're the slow ones, as they call it. Like, yeah, we found 5 black holes in the sun. We took them out.
Yep.
Boop. We just got rid of them. And the book actually starts off talking about this. Although the human race realized that the sun was not a reliable source of energy for the long term, there was little they could do about it. They knew that there were black holes. They knew there were 4 black holes in it.
Yes, they didn't know there were 5. So one of the crew members. Wait, is it one of the crew members?
One of the ancestors of one of the crew members.
Ancestor, that's it.
Was trying to find the 5th one, looking to see if there was a 5th one, and she's the one that ended up discovering the egg.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice little bit of tie-in. That was well plotted on his part. Yeah,
and again, he's good in the snippets.
Yes,
right, and he's good in the long. So again, a story that started 500,000 years ago and ends in 13 years from now.
Yeah. So I don't want to be too unfair to Forward here and say, oh my God, this guy can't write. He can't write human beings, can't write characters. Because he did write a really compelling, really fun book, and he's not, I believe this is his first novel. I don't know. I think it is. And he mentions a lot of people he got help from along the way. And so, I just want to celebrate that. I think it's amazing.
It is.
The fact that human characters are so horrible and disappointing barely detracts from this book because there's so much else that is so fun in it. The physics and the life on a neutron star. It's the most amazing piece of world building that I've ever seen. And the Chila characters are tons of fun, even though a little bit stereotypical. They're just delightful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that we could see them go through, phases. Yeah. In the phase when everybody's naming themselves, all the Chilas are naming themselves after famous humans. Then they come up with the idea of jewelry because the humans wear jewelry and these other assorted trendy things that go along.
I like there's a Chila named Superfluid who makes a discovery in anti-gravity, and it's called the superfluid theory. And he's distressed about that because it has nothing to do with actual superfluids, which are another physical theory that he happens to be named after. Yeah.
Later on, we get into the idea that Chila, if they do something really remarkable, they can choose a new name.
Yes.
Which is, again, a fun thing. But it made it a little bit confusing at times to follow a story because, Bob suddenly wasn't Bob anymore. It was Lucinda.
Yeah. Pink Eye. Was it Pink Eye? Was that his name? Becomes Bright's messenger. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I like that also, that some of the Chila had an affliction of their eyes, which allowed them to perceive different wavelengths. So they weren't as good at seeing the normal wavelength that most Chila could see, but they had
X-rays.
Expanded range in the infrared, I want to say. I don't know, but they could see what the humans were shooting down with
the
their
mapping laser. Yeah, I could see the mapping laser.
Yes. One of my other favorite parts of this book, he talks about how the Chila invent arithmetic.
That is such a good story.
I just love that. And so you enjoyed that too. Okay, good.
And the fact that arithmetic started from a hoarder.
Yeah. Right? Yes. That is just delightful. I mean, coming up with a base notation system, it's like, wow, I can have this stand for some other number of these things. Yeah, that was amazing.
And, she uses that. She saves the clan because she uses this understanding of mathematics. This is when they're planning the Great Migration.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And, the question is there enough food for all these Chila to make it all that way? Because it was a hard trip and it was a long trip.
And before this Chila, they couldn't really count. It was like it was a 1-2-many system. And he's like, yeah, we've got a lot. We've got plenty of food. Look at all the food. There's so much food. And she's like, no,
I've never seen this much food, right? Clearly it's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. She even fights. She sacrifices an egg to fight for the leadership of the clan to enforce her will. And of course she ends up being right.
Yes. That is wonderful. That's one of my favorite parts of this book. Yeah. And I had forgotten about that. I discovered that on reread. I was like, oh, this is amazing. And to be fair, I'm not sure how fun that is for other people. You like it. That's awesome. I don't know how many people would be willing to sit still for an arithmetic lesson in the middle of their novel. Yeah, but I thought it was amazing.
Well, that comes around again when the people on the spaceship, is the spaceship Dragon's Egg?
No, the neutron star is Dragon's Egg, right?
Right. What?
I forget what they call the spaceship.
Anyway, when they realize that there's intelligent life down there and they start sending out an attempt to communicate, right? The Chila astronomers pick up on this. They figure out that there's a message coming in and they're looking at it. And they realize it's mathematics. They're sending us, a basic primer on mathematics, except it's base 10. What kind of weird creatures would use a base 10 mathematics system, right?
Yes, that's fun. All right. The probe ship was called the Dragon Slayer.
Dragon Slayer.
And the spaceship was called St. George.
St. George of the Dragon Slayer.
Yeah.
Right.
That doesn't really come up much. That's why I forgot. I'm reading from the technical appendix now. Yeah.
So yeah, that would. I think that held up well. I mean, there were a couple of laughable things in the.
Okay. I have a laughable thing. Not in the science. I have a laughable thing in the human characterization. So is it the captain of this ship is a woman or one of the key crew members? We get her POV early on. And Robert Forward talks about her women's things. It's like she's just gathering up her women's things and she's going to do women's stuff to get ready to be presentable, And it's just like she's literally an alien species to him. Yeah, the writer of this book. It's just, yeesh. Jacqueline Carnot.
Now, these astronauts have got a lot of initiative, and they're all very like-minded.
Yeah.
They're encountering an alien species for the first time. There's no discussion about, is there a protocol for first contact? They just jump right into, hey, let's make contact. Hey, let's send them all the information we have.
Yeah.
Hey, they want to come take a look. Let's make this happen. All these.
That's a good point. It's a very optimistic view of alien contact, which usually goes badly, first contact in most novels.
Yep. Or at the very least, it's something that takes a while.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I guess it does actually take a while because it takes dozens, if not hundreds, of generations of Chila.
Yeah. It just takes a while on their end, so we get lucky with that.
Yeah.
And they're so close. They're just hovering above the neutron or orbiting above the neutron star, so they can exchange information very rapidly. Most alien contact happens either far from your home planet or over vast distances, like the Three-Body Problem trilogy. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I got. That's all I got on this one.
All right. So yeah, I feel like this held up well. It had some stuff that I had forgotten that I didn't care for. Mm-hmm. But overall, like I said, this is a fun read. It's a well-constructed world. It's a well-constructed alien race. And I enjoyed going back to this. For
a science fiction book from the 80s, it's not bad. It mostly stays away from some of the cringier aspects of the science fiction in the 80s. By focusing mostly on the neutron star and the Chila. It has incredible world building with this. Yeah, I can't think of another book that has better world building than this. I mean, Niven does great world building with like the integral trees and Ringworld and so on. And he name checks Hal Clement, Mission of Gravity, which is sort of the classic in this regard. But this to me is mind blowing. Life on a neutron star. Wow, who'd have thunk it?
Indeed.
Yeah, it's all you need to know, really.
Indeed. All right. So what do we got coming up next?
Coming up, we got a complete change of pace. We are going for Dave Barry's first novel, Big Trouble.
All right. Looking forward to that.
Me too.
We will see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.